coming up. Our approach here through the Sound of Papa is a bit of a delicate thing. We had to re-anchor.
I will cry.
Kathrin goes on a hike. She comes under attack from Papa Stour Air Force. The quality of the recording has dropped dramatically. I don't like it. 3 times, I think, and 3 times the anchor dragged in various areas. We just left the pier at Scalloway Boat Club here on Shetland, and we're on the way to Papa Stour. We take the tide as indicated by an old fisherman yesterday. Leave on the high tide and you're gonna be fine, so we'll see. The wind is 15 to 23 knots, so it's gonna be nice. Should be from behind, so I hope it's gonna be a nice sail, not too many waves, and the visibility is good. There's clouds, but they should clear up towards the evening. Today is the 7th of July. We arrived on the 5th from the Faroes, and in these 2 days we recovered a bit and explored the area. We're out of the harbour. We have the wind right slightly from aft, and we have the mainsail in the first reef and the Genoa full out. It's still about 15-17 knots of wind, so almost perfect. No, not a lot of waves and a constant blow, which is great. We're on our way to Papa Stour. There's no wind at all, as usual. It died on us and it's coming right from behind with about 10 to 12 knots. There's a bit of a swell going. We have the engine on and we just need to time our arrival at the narrows between Papa Stour and the mainland to go through. Our approach here through the Sound of Papa is a bit of a delicate thing because we have some rocks here. We have some rocks here, so it's quite narrow, and we will have to go in and make a dog leg and around here. So that's quite critical. We don't want the current against us. Ideally, we have it with us. That should be the case. We are there on time. Goal will be to come in here on a course of 60, and then we have to turn to a course of about 115, I think it is. I'll have to look it up, and then turn back up again to go out to avoid basically that situation here. The passage through the Sound requires great care, as there are dangers extending well offshore on both sides. Strong tides of up to 4 knots can raise considerable seas with wind against tide and make course keeping difficult. So the pilot book says we have to approach the island here for Wickholm on a course of 60, and then once we have the north point here of Holm of Melby at 115 degrees, we have to turn to 115 until we're here, and then we go out at 70 at the course of 70, and then around into our anchorage. That's the idea.
It's what?
Wasser,
Ja,
no, cheers.
quick machen.
Danke vielmals. Wurstkäsesorte. We immediately fell in love with this peaceful and well-protected anchorage. One would think one would hear the water all the time, but not here. Listen yourself. 11 and we had to re-anchor because the anchor dragged in the sand. We had a wind shift and probably we hadn't really laid it correctly. Kathrin was of the view it dragged before. I was of the view, no, it's gonna be fine. But I think it slightly dragged, especially when the wind turned. So I thought it's better to wake Kathrin up, to go through hell.
Yeah.
To go through hell, to wake her up and to re-anchor, so we have a silent night. So that's what it is. I'm just finishing up now. Good night.
Good night. I was right.
The ferry is the only regular link to the mainland and it only runs on 4 days of the week. The ferry offers space for a car or two, but as there is only one track on Papa Stour, the best way to explore the island is by foot. In the beautiful sunshine, Kathrin goes on a hike around the island, whilst I prefer cleaning the algae growth of Polaris waterline. As sailors, we are used to see more and more of Elon Musk's Starlink antennas on boats. Here is the first example of its initial purpose usage, a means to bring fast internet via satellite to remote rural areas. Kathrin's first turn brings her to Kirk Sands Beach, a very quiet and beautiful sandy beach on the south shore. She wasn't expecting this here. On she goes. Papa Stour has been populated since 3000 BC, and in the 6th century, missionary Celtic priests settled on the island. The name Papa Stour comes from the Vikings. In Old Norse, it means big islands of the priest. There are still some remains of watermills around Dutchloch in the center of the island. Many of them were still in use in the early years of the 20th century. At its peak in the 19th century, Papa's population was around 380, where the fishing station was opened at West Voe. However, the population dwindled ever since, and today the island is the permanent home to less than a dozen people. Beside the occasional yachties, Papa Stour is popular with kayakers and divers. There are numerous sea caves and shipwrecks to explore around the island. Nowhere on the island is the power of the sea more evident than with these isolated rocks and skerries on the west side of Papa. They have rugged walls, pierced faces, and there are a lot of sea caves. Some of them have collapsed under the power of the waves and remain as dramatic steep cuts in the shoreline. At the highest elevation of the island, at 85 meters above sea level, Kathrin takes her lunch break. What happens next comes very unexpectedly and frightens the hell out of her. She comes under attack from Papa Stour Air Force in a relentless air-to-ground attack. He is very aware that the bird's breeding season is in full swing. Usually, the birds nest in the cliffs or close by, and the birds nesting on flat ground are careful not to give away the location of their offspring. Not so the Great Skuas or Bonxies, how they are called locally. Bonxies are bonkers, and apparently well known to attack even humans coming too close to their nesting grounds. These birds are big, and they are also known to prey on newborn lambs, much to the displeasure of the farmers. Just started the engine here in Housa Voe, and here disaster strikes. We don't know what happened to our trusted Rode camera microphone that served us well for the last 6 years. But suddenly, the quality of the recording has dropped dramatically and it started to work about as reliably as the British Railways. The worst thing is that we were blissfully unaware of the fault until a couple of weeks later. For the next few episodes, you'll have to bear with our attempt to muddle through until we can solve the problem. Nice. The next morning we leave Housa Voe on Papa Stour and sail north. We will try an anchorage called Sand Voe that is just south of the Yell Sound. As an alternative, we'll go north of Yell Sound into Whale Firth. You're a lonely sailor, and your soul is made of wind and rain. It's a perfect day sailing. With an offshore wind, the sea state is smooth as there is no fetch to build up higher waves. As we leave the protection of the cliffs of Kathrin Head, the wind freshens up. It's now blowing 16 to 18 knots with the apparent wind over deck at 22. Polaris loves the breeze, and with one reef in the main and a full genoa, she pushes ahead fast and steadily. We approach the anchorage of Sand Voe. Tonight the wind is expected to shift, so we might swing at anchor, and the anchorage does not seem to have a lot of room for it. From looking at the chart, I think it's too narrow, particularly as there is also another boat approaching which seems to have the same plan as us. I think we should abandon our plan and sail directly on to Whale Firth, but Kathrin insists she would like to try Sand Voe first. So, as per the Admiral's order, we continue our approach into Sand Voe. And my heart is made of dust and grain and spoiled champagne. I've got troubles, I've got sins, I'm my worst enemy, but I've still got a lot to give. So I said, hey, don't you wanna come and run away with me? Hey, won't you come and say by chance, don't you want a man who fully understands a sailor's heart, a sailor's heart. I don't like it. And as I expected, this anchorage between the rocks is too narrow and too deep to provide enough swinging room. And further in, where the smaller yacht has gone, the chart suggests it's too shallow for Polaris. Of course, you never contradict the orders of a high officer. This is mutiny and is potentially deadly. Nevertheless, there is some schadenfreude on the captain's face as we finally set the new course on Whale Firth. You're a born survivor, and you'll never find yourself in love. You're wise. We have now just crossed the north entrance of the Yell Sound and we approach the mouth of the Whale Firth. From the west, where we come from, the entrance is not visible, but once more the electronics take any guesswork out of the equation. Whale Firth is 4 nautical miles long and it is the only safe anchorage on the west coast of Yell, north of the Yell Sound. The pilot book advises to anchor at the head of the Voe, giving a quiet and secluded anchorage even with bad weather outside. Holding in mud should be excellent, according to the book. And as the mic miraculously comes back to life, listen to the original soundtrack of what happens. Don't you wanna come and run away with me? Hey, won't you come and say by chance, don't you want a man who fully understands a sailor's heart, a sailor's heart. we had several tries to anchor in Whale Firth. First we tried down there just between the fish farm and up here. We had 3 times, I think, and 3 times the anchor dragged in various areas. Then we went up here and tried again, and again the anchor dragged. It didn't hold. With our normal 2,300 revs, at about 2,000 revs the anchor started dragging, so it didn't hold. And after 4 attempts we gave it up. I think the mud is too thin for our anchor. It's a sandy mud that doesn't really stick a lot, so not good holding for us at least. So we decided to borrow a commercial mooring off the fish farm. We hope we're not going to be evicted during the night, but I think it's Sunday, so nobody will come to work until tomorrow, and then we're off again. So we feel fine here on that mooring, and at least from our point of view, we cannot recommend this anchorage from a holding point of view. It's not, our Rockno anchor does not set in here. Join us next time. And the plan today is to leave Whale Firth out here, go through the Sound of Yell, which is pretty complex, I'll come to that, and then sail down to Lerwick and explore the history in the north and south of Shetland.
The walls almost reach their original height, and you get a real sense of what these houses would have looked like and how protected you would have felt here on a stormy autumn day.